know I'm going to screw this up, but I'll try it anyways. Biraz çok güzel. Çok mutluyum. Teşekkürler. Çok teşekkürler. So Koray, Ziad, Yousef, I'm very, very super excited to, learn more about your, how you've been navigating your journeys, your personal journeys from scale-up founders from startup founders to scale-up founders. But before talking about each one of you as a scale-up founder, I would love us to take a step back and actually get to talk about, the humans behind the business, right? The human behind the steering wheel of your business, if you will.
Love to.
Yes?
Yeah.
Is this working?
I'm going to check.
Let's try this one. Yes. So, if you could tell us, in one sentence to start, what, your business is all about, and then we dive right into the human. I forgot that part. It's very important to, just for context, what your business is about.
I'm the CEO and co-founder of Figopara. Figopara is a digital financing platform for small, medium businesses. We are operating in Turkey, and we just recently launched our new operation in UAE. We are actually helping small, medium businesses to get paid instantly through our platform without waiting their customers' payments due dates. And just recently, this year, we'll lend over $200 million cash to over a couple of thousands businesses in Turkey.
Super.
So I run a company called CardioDiognostics. From the name, it's helping people with heart disease, cardiac problems, get diagnosed, we identify the problem, and help them find a path to the treatment and the solution to their problem. And the reason I started this company is when I was 17, my father died with heart disease, and that kind of shaped my career, and I decided I want to create a technology for people with heart problem to identify it, find it, and treat it, and avoid early death. And this is exactly what we do today.
Thank you. Yousef.
Thank you, Silvia. And first of all, a big thank you to Endeavor Turkey for everything they've done. I've been here for a few days, and it really would have been the same without them. So thank you very much for everything you've done. So my name is Yousef. I started a company called ZenHR. ZenHR is basically a human resources management platform. We address, or we essentially automate the HR function from what we call the acquire stage to the retire stage. We're localized for 12 countries in MENA. A big part of what we do is localization because we need to comply with local labor laws, tax laws, social security, payroll, etc. We have essentially 5 physical offices in the region. And I'm excited to be here with you today and to learn from everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So, fintech, healthcare, and SaaS, right? Okay, now that we've established the context, let's get to the human behind the business. And I realize I just ripped my shirt. Too many Turkish delights, I guess. But anyways, so can you share with us something about you that we cannot find on Google?
I think my childhood drawings you're not able to find on Google. And I remember that I sold a couple of them to my families so to get some money. So I think this information is not on Google.
That's awesome. Very good.
I think it is the starting of my entrepreneurship journey.
Very good. Seed as seed goes. What about you, Ziad?
I think one fun fact that you won't find in Google is when I was 7, I created a market for trading stamps back in school. So
I did the same thing.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I did the same thing.
I think that's how you become an entrepreneur,
that's
right? You start with stamps and probably progresses. So nobody was interested in stamps, and all of a sudden I had all different kind of stamps, and people started willing to pay money for it, and I created a market for it and made some money early on in my career.
Look at that. Stamps as the new lemonade stand. Yeah. Love it.
So actually, I have a very limited presence on social media, so there's a lot probably you wouldn't find. I'm a father of 3, and I'm a certified scuba diver, which I haven't done in a while, but yeah, that's definitely something you wouldn't find.
Super. And since you have the microphone on you, let's do the opposite round. You know, this is my favorite. Personally, I ask this to every MarComm candidate that I interview, and you're not MarComm candidates, but I thought I would ask you nonetheless, because I think very, very interesting what we get out of it. I would love to learn what you consider to be your superpower and your kryptonite.
Okay, fantastic. So actually, my first role was in sales and marketing. And I think that's essentially a bit of my core competency, I would say. So, superpower, I have an annoying attention to detail. So whether that's a superpower or not, you know, that's it. Kryptonite, I would say my wife.
Is she here?
Is she here? That's
she's
the
not
question.
here. She's not here, but maybe someone will send her the message. Yeah.
So for the superpower, that's right. When it comes to superpower, I think I have a unique perseverance that a lot of people highlight when they talk to me. I've been through a lot in my business journey. For example, I talked to a lot of wonderful folks from Turkey in the past few days, and they're complaining about the devaluation. I'm from Lebanon, so our currency devaluated by 70x to the dollar, and we lost all our money. Like at one point, we had millions of dollars in the bank, and now we can only see it on the app, so we lost all that money completely. It did not deter me. I continued with the company, restarted it, put my money in Silicon Valley Bank, and then it collapsed again in the US. So that did not stop us, and we continued, and we sevenfolds our size of the company. So I think the perseverance I have is something I'm proud of. But when it comes to kryptonite, my energy is easily drained when I argue with people who are not ambitious or aligned with the vision. I love to work with people who want to do something out of their lives and want to make a difference out of the short window we spend on this earth. And when I find people who just want to be there for the paycheck at the end of the month, it kind of drains my energy. So that's my kryptonite.
Super.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself often leveraging your superpower to persuade the right people or try to convince the right people of the need to have a purpose or have more passion?
Absolutely. I mean, I get that perseverance side of me exfoliated when I meet somebody who doesn't want to do much with their lives, and I feel that there is a moral obligation for me to make a difference about that. It doesn't always work, but when it does, I feel very accomplished about changing somebody's mind about doing something good for the planet and for the living that we are in today.
Thank you.
Sure.
Koray.
For the superpower, I'm thinking, what should I say? I think my superpower is my mood is always positive. So many of my friends say that you are always smiling in any crisis, I think, and I'm quickly adapting to changing circumstances. So I'm easily able to, I think, get a positive vibe even after a big crisis. I think this should be a superpower of it. For the kryptonites, I think the negative vibes are killing me a lot. So if someone is always negative vibe, always negative moods, they are, I think, draining my energy, my power, my happiness. So I think that too.
Super. All right. Yes, please.
So just to clarify, I think that their kryptonite is stuff that annoys them. And my understanding of the question was sort of like, what was your weak spot? So that's a clarification. I think that's worth mentioning.
Fair enough. Do you want a second take on it, Yousef?
So what annoys me, basically? there's definitely something that does, and it's when I ask someone a question in a specific function and they're not on top of their numbers and their data. So that's essentially, if the question is what annoys me at work, then that's it. So
Super.
for example, if you're in finance and I ask you a number and you don't know the number and you have to look it up and then it's accurate, not accurate, etc. That's
Great.
yeah.
Yes, I relate to what you said. My previous boss used to call me a stubborn optimist. She didn't necessarily mean it in a flattering way, but I took it as flattery anyways. Okay. All right. So now let's talk business. So let's think back to you being a startup founder, right? And our assumption is that your role has evolved quite a bit. So what is your role today, and how has it evolved from startup founder to scale-up founder?
Shall I? Yeah. Actually, my professional journey is really funny because I started to work with my partner, Ahmet. He's also an endeavor entrepreneur, in 2001 when I was a computer engineering student at university as a part-time developer. After the graduate, I started working with him, and roughly 3 years later, we become co-founder. We carved out one of the business I was managing in the company. So I'm working with him. I'm partnered with him almost, I think, 15, 17 years. More than 20 years we are together. And I was really lucky because when I started as a full-time in the business, we were only, 7, 8 employees. And when we exit our previous endeavor company, Foriba, in mid-19, we were about 220. So I was lucky because I'm able to, as a developer, I was working, I managed the teams, I managed the department, I managed the business and the company. So that was I involved within the same company more than 10 years. So that was really a valuable journey for me.
Super. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I think the evolution from a startup entrepreneur all the way to a scale-up entrepreneur is not an easy one. Not a lot of people can go through that journey successfully, but with the right mentorship and the right understanding of your weaknesses and strength, it goes a long way. For me, I started with a team of around 5 people, and we grew slowly at first. And I think part of it is because of my weaknesses and areas that I should have worked better on. But at one point, my mindset changed, and I surrounded myself with the right people. And we were able to scale the team, scale the operation, and go from under $1 million to $10 million or more in a relatively short period of time. And I think it's all about either willing to learn the lessons and the skills needed to be a scale-up entrepreneur, or stay out of the way and probably hire someone who can help your business scale. In that case, I decided I'm going to do it, and it's a learning journey that I had to go through.
Very interesting. Do you feel like you started as more on the controlling side of things? When you say surrender,
Yeah.
it takes me to control, and then slowly and steadily just like being able to delegate more?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the entrepreneurs in the room could relate to the fact that when we build something, we can associate a lot to it and feel ownership of that, a lot more than anybody who joins us on the journey at the early age. But the level of maturity an entrepreneur could reach to is where they're able and willing to delegate pieces of the functions to people, even though they're not going to do it just as good.
Yeah.
I mean, and there is a rule I learned from one of my mentors: if they do it 80% as good, then that's good enough. You don't have to get it 100% to where you want it to be. And that's something I learned. I was able to look at something that is imperfect and say, this is fine, I'll take it. Or maybe we can do another iteration on it, but I wouldn't get as mad as I would early on in my journey when something is not 100% where I wanted to be.
Yeah. Yousef.
So as I mentioned, when we started back in 2007, my role was head of sales and marketing. So I used to do a lot of things myself. I used to be very hands-on. So I used to, go to customers, do active selling. I used to manage our AdWords campaign. So I was very involved in the details. And then when we grew, I learned to be hands-off and essentially delegate. So I'm very much sort of, in terms of involvement, the opposite. And I feel like without delegation, is very difficult to scale. And hiring the right people obviously helps. And I'm happy to say that, the marketing and sales team that we have today actually does a much better job that I could ever do.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned, thank you. You mentioned Ziad. You alluded to having a mentor, and I would love to learn about the people that have significantly influenced you throughout your journey. Who have you been looking up to? Who has had a major influence on your journey, and why, if you will?
Sure. The people who had really a big influence on my journey actually range from junior employees that I came across and I hired and I learned from, all the way up to mentors who are CEOs of publicly traded companies on the NASDAQ. So the learning doesn't stop at people who are necessarily ahead of you in your career. You could learn from people who are starting their career but have a different soft skills or different mindset than your own. So I remember this junior engineer that joined us and had a completely different way at looking at problems and a very systematic way at solving them. And I think I learned a lot from that engineer. And so that was one person on the junior end of the spectrum. And I also had a mentor who was a CEO of a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. And he taught me how to hire sales reps and train them, motivate them, put their compensation schedule in a way that keeps them going. And with that kind of skill, I was able to scale my sales team dramatically. So it's a wide variety of people you learn from over the journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's so good that you learn. It's very precious to learn how to learn from junior people as much as more senior people. So as far as this particular mentor, is there any piece of advice that you got that's very valuable that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, it's going to be very technical and specific. It's about your pricing strategy. So if you are actually getting your customers exclusively on price, you're going to probably lose that same customer also on price. You need to understand the value chain and the value you're offering to your customer, and that only comes by interacting deeply with the customers, spending time with them, understanding their pain points, and designing products and services that fit that pain point and allow you to offer your products and services at a competitive edge, not only on a pricing side. So at first, my sales reps were driving the business to cut on costs, be the cheapest, or try to be one of the cheapest to get more customers. And we decided we're not going to be the cheapest person in the block. We're actually going to be priced at a premium, but we're going to offer premium services and products. And I think that was thanks to the inspiration of my mentor, who's been through scaling a company from 7 million to 7 billion. He learned how to do that and kind of passed that knowledge to me.
Thank you.
Sure.
Love it. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
So actually, I would love to dovetail on it. Is there any great piece of advice that you got from a mentor that you can share with us, Yousef?
So in terms of advice, and that's essentially the advice that we try to share with everyone who asks us for a specific or one piece of advice that they should pay attention to, which is really learning how to learn. You mentioned it, Silvia, but that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you learn how to learn, and that sounds probably easier said than done, but I think you can navigate probably a lot of the challenges that you would face.
How have you learned to learn? Were there any major hurdles that you had to overcome?
So from 2007 until today, I would say many, and eventually learning how to learn. It's either you kind of do that and come to the realization that you need to evolve a certain way, because that's also kind of proportional to evolution, right?
Yeah.
And evolution is always, we always use evolve rather than change, because evolving means you're changing for the better.
Yeah.
And a lot of people resist change sometimes, but with evolution, you need to kind of you discover, you reach a point where you figure out, like, I'm actually there. I know how to learn new things, and I'm open-minded enough to listen to other people and to figure out, what I don't know, and how to get that piece of information to solve whatever problems and challenges we're facing and will continue to face, obviously, moving forward.
Thank you. Yes, it takes a lot of humility, no? Yes, thank
Indeed.
you. What about you, Mr. Koray?
Actually, two things. A story from my international selection panel at 2015. One of our panelists was the Sal Gianbanco. Sal was I think, one of the first employees in PayPal. And on our panel, I think it was the 5th minute or 6th minute, he stopped me and asked me, Koray, when did you fire and who did you fire in the company? I said, no one, because we are growing, I need more talents. And on the other hand, I don't like to fire people. He told me, Koray, you are not able to be an endeavor entrepreneur, even though you are not able to be an entrepreneur. I shocked, and I don't know how I passed that remaining 55 minutes in the panel. And even though we selected at Amman in 2015, and after that I come back and I fire that time CFO in the company and hire Evren. He become our new CFO. So it was important, and so I think another important advice I got from the Endeavor, because Endeavor, so I've been in this family over 8 years, and I able to become Endeavor entrepreneur, get investment from Endeavor, exit it, invest back to the Catalyst, and then become board member. So I'm able to sit all different seats in Endeavor. So I'm actually getting bunch of advice, is really valuable people in the network. Another one, all my leadership team, all my friends, all my partners are really better than me. So as a CEO, yes, and all of them is really good on what they are doing, and that's an important advice I got from, again, one of the Endeavor circles.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Very precious. What a wonderful journey, and we're very thankful to have you, having played like so many hats. Aren't you happy, new CFO, for the advice that he got back then? Anyways, okay, so I would love to shift gears a little bit and talk about vulnerability. So I'm just, first of all, I'm curious, like, who in the room thinks of vulnerability as a weakness versus strength? Showing vulnerability, who thinks of being vulnerable as a weakness? As a strength? All right, so let's talk about vulnerable times. I see it as a strength as well. Actually, one of my favorite books is The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown, but not getting carried away. There is this misperception that that you entrepreneurs, I say we because I once, in my past life, was an entrepreneur as well, are very stoic and powerful, and and we are meant for that, and we are, there are no hard times that we cannot just conquer. So I would love to bring you back to the worst day in your journey as an entrepreneur. Can you speak about the worst day in your life as an entrepreneur, and what the heck did you do?
Hundreds, but try to pick one. On Fariba exit, our previous company exit, it is acquired by Sovos, backed by one of the UK-based private equity firm. It was actually quick due diligence and signing. At the signing day, one of our investors I'm not going to name their name in the speech, but someone knows. So everybody starts signing the documents. So it's a DocuSign. So the buyer side signed the document, other investors, founders, but one investor didn't sign the document. And it was a really funny deal because one part of the deal is from Singapore, Turkey, London, New York, and somewhere else in US. So the tons of lawyers are working. And I called that investor, said, is there any problem? Nobody answered my phone. The day after, bunch of email, WhatsApp messages. 24 hours passed, and the third day, the buyer company called me, Koray, is there any problem? Why they're not signing? I said, I don't have any idea because I'm not able to reach them. And 3 days later, and I fly back to London to talk with the buyer companies that we don't know, we are not able to reach them. And when I was meeting with them, the investor who didn't sign the document called me. I said, I'm with the buyer right now. And she said, are you available to talk? I said, last 3 days I only would like to talk with you, no one else. And so somehow they request additional things in the signing day. Last 4 months, all the lawyers work, but they would like to get something else. I think that 3 day was the worst day of my life. Yeah.
Okay. Did they sign? Yes.
Did they sign? But it cost us a couple of millions. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and a few gray hair, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, okay. What about you, Yousef?
So when you asked, is being vulnerable a strength or a weakness? What was the one hand was what, strength or weakness?
I think most people, like many people, were undecided, or they just didn't feel like answering. But I'd say like most of those who answered said it was a strength.
Okay. So basically, I mean, being an entrepreneur, when you said many, hundreds or more, that's probably something everybody can relate to. Being vulnerable, by the way, means being human, so that's fine. You're going to go through many ups and downs. For us, there have been several. If I were to sort of, the first scenario that would come to mind was when we expanded into a new market and we screwed it up, basically. We screwed it up because we had different expectations. Essentially, was back in 2011, 2012, and experience plays a role. Maybe sometimes investors push you to do certain things that you might not be ready for, and I think this was one of those times. So we expanded into a new market. We had a business plan. The business plan bombed. We didn't make the revenue we expected. We spent more than we expected. We went into a big cash crunch, and we came close to defaulting on our payroll for our employees. So that wasn't a very fun time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I mean, for obvious reasons, we all tend to just dial up the success stories of entrepreneurship. But as all of you know, there are lots of terror stories that happened before the success stories. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure. Well, kind of like Yousef and Koray, I have hundreds of moments of misery. Maybe I have to choose the top one.
Share the misery.
Yeah. I mean, I think entrepreneurship is way over glamored and overhyped than it really is. There's a lot of pain, and I don't think there is enough conversation around mental health of entrepreneurs, especially now after COVID. I mean, we've been through a lot with COVID, and then on top of that comes entrepreneurship with all its challenges. For me, one of the lowest points is when we had all our money in bank accounts in Lebanon, and the whole country, if you read the news, collapsed completely. So all the money was gone in those banks, and we were left literally with $0 that we can use functionally outside of the country. So we had to start from scratch. That was devastating enough. But the more devastating I remember was like, I thought I'm over that, and we learned the lessons. So we moved our money into another bank in the US, Silicon Valley Bank, and that one collapses again. So I was like, I don't want to go through this again a third time. But the point is, I remember those 3 days between the time when the bank was seized by the federal government until they told us that they will give us the money back. Those were 3 debilitating and devastating times because I knew I wouldn't be able to pay my payroll on time. There are legal consequences in the US if you don't pay payroll, whether you lost your money or not, they don't care. There are laws that go into effect. So for me, I was like, this is very, very hard. Do I want to go through this again? Well, the good news is we got our money back from the US government, and I decided it's worth giving this another shot in terms of going through this pain process again. But I mean, those are just few moments of hardship that you go through as an entrepreneur.
Oh,
and I'm sure
yes.
there are hundreds others.
Thank you. And çok, thank you. No, çok teşekkürler. Teşekkürler. So you talk about mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we don't talk about it enough, no? And what would you have to say to an entrepreneur who's going through a tough time, who's right now like going through anxiety or depression or panic attacks.
Yeah.
We don't talk about this, guys. We really don't. But this is so much more recurrent, than we think. And it's part of, at least as far as my humble experience goes, from a startup, I never got to really scale. I just sold my company to a public company. But that's, anyways. So I had a very hard time, super hard time. Right? And people just do not talk about these things. I had a panic attack the day I sold my baby to a public company. Yeah. Right? I had a panic attack. I started to develop panic attacks. But no one talks about these things. What do you have to say to an entrepreneur who's going through this, right now?
I can tell him, if you know a solution to exit that panic attack, to share with us. But from my personal experience, I spent some time reading about anxiety. Obviously, therapy is underrated. You definitely, if you have the opportunity to find a good therapist that you can get along with, that would be best. Sometimes it could be a partner. It could be your partner. It could be your best therapist. Sometimes it's a professional therapist, a psychologist. I'm personally a solo founder, and I wouldn't do it again. If you're a solo founder, my advice to you is find a co-founder, give up some of your equity and hand it over, and just get someone who is going to be as aligned with you on the pain of the journey as you would be. So that would be a great therapy. I personally write down my causes of anxiety. I search for them and I write them down and I face them on a piece of paper. And usually that helps me understand that they might not be as big as my mind tells me they are. That I found to be a very effective method. So if you encounter a time where you're going through a panic attack or a lot of anxiety, just write them down. It makes a big difference not to think about them, but actually to write them down and look them in the eyes and evaluate, are they as big as our mind is telling us, or is it just the overwhelming amount of emotions that is making it worse than it is? Oftentimes it's the latter. It's not as bad as it looks.
Super. Sorry, I changed the topic a bit, but I thought was just like very, very valuable. Like in Portugal, I'm from Brazil. You say that it's like it's a volleyball expression. You are lifting the ball for the other person to spike. So you lift it for me. It's like my favorite topic. So I'm like, I'm gonna get as much as I can. But how much time do we have? No more time. Okay, sorry, Koray. So I'm just going to end this with a very, very quick promise. Very quick. It's like a 2-minute rapid fire, okay? So, favorite film?
Interstellar. 20 times I've watched it, I think.
Braveheart.
Yes.
Godfather.
Yes. Podcast.
Master of Scale, Reid Hoffman.
How I Built This with Guy Raz. I recommend it.
Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan.
And you said?
How I Built This with Guy Raz. It's amazing.
Your favorite mantra?
Oh, I don't know. Let you start. Let me think.
You never fail until you stop trying, so keep trying.
I love this.
Fail again and again.
And again and again and again.
Nothing happens unless someone sells something.
Okay. Can I share mine?
Yeah.
I was going to ask for the mic, and I'm mic'd. No, I mean, we talked about this yesterday, right? Someone in a movie or whatever said that everything works out in the end, and if it hasn't, it's because it's not the end yet. I love that.
Love it.
Right? Love it.
Fabulous.
Endeavor in a word is the last thing. Endeavor in a word. Oh,
Impact.
wait.
Oh.
Sorry. Your favorite moderator. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Silvia,
Koray.
Silvia.
I'm kidding. Koray.
Sylvia. Impact.
Yes.
For me, it's a super network. I love the network.
Safe place.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, guys, and thank you, Silvia, for these wonderful questions and even better answers. I think it was my one of the favorite panels. Thank you.